This is a chapter from the book Pakistan Army's First Warlord, who led its longest war, General Douglas Gracey, and the Kashmir War of 1947-48, available on the Amazon books. Gracey's failure at Poonch. Gracey, by design, did not deploy any Pakistani army unit facing the most decisive Rajouri sector, the only approach from where Indians could relieve Poonch. Gracey's cowardly irresolution thus ensured that Indians faced no problems at all in relieving Poonch, as all they were facing were pathetically armed and organized irregulars. The failure of Gracey was not highlighted in any serious military history publication till to date. Map to illustrate Gracey's failure in South Kashmir in adopting credible operational measures to defeat Indian attempts to relieve Poonch, area marked in red, where Gracey did not deploy any Pakistani army regular units, thus making India's efforts to relieve Poonch a child's play. As you can see, in this crucial area, Gracey did not deploy any Pakistan army unit. This area marked in red, as you can see, a very large tract of land, and all Indians had to do was to push north and relieve Poonch. And Gracey, frankly, he was not bothered, having a cushy time in Rawalpindi, enjoying the perks and privileges of Pakistan Army Chief. It was a criminal operational failure and not highlighted by any person. As you can see, the area very clearly, a lovely approach for the Indians to relieve Poonch from Rajouri. As you can see, map to illustrate Gracey's failure in South Kashmir in adopting a credible operational measure to defeat Indian attempts to relieve Poonch. As you can see, this is how the Indians relieved Poonch, the white arrow, and in this red area marked with red, Gracey did not deploy any Pakistan army unit. Of course, there was a design to it. Certainly, Gracey was not sincere to his assigned mission, and he was not sincere as far as loyalty to the Pakistani state was concerned, although he was handpicked by Pakistan's first Governor General. Gracey's most serious failure at Poonch was entering into ceasefire with Indian Army, thus demoralizing the tribal and Azad forces besieging Poonch. This harsh fact was squarely acknowledged by Pakistani official history, published in 1970 on pages 124 and 125, the Kashmir Campaign 1947-48. During this temporary ceasefire, which Gracey negotiated, the Indians reinforced Poonch garrison with fresh troops. Indian author Das Gupta noted this truce, which was a lifesaver for the Indians, in the following words, quote, "He also indicated that he would contrive to withdraw Indian troops from Poonch town and from the environments of Rajouri if he were allowed to evacuate the besieged soldiers and civilians without interference. He had also offered to halt Indian bombing operations, presumably by finding technical justifications. Gracey, on his part, was to stop further shelling of Poonch by Azad forces, to provide safe conduct to troops and civilians being evacuated to areas under Indian control, and to restrain Azad forces from raiding behind the Indian front in the Uri sector." Gracey, as quoted, naively believed that Indians would evacuate Poonch and thus inflicted one of the severest operational blow to the Pakistan Army in the Kashmir War. In addition, Gracey, as Chief of Staff, before he took over, assigned a criminally passive role to the Pakistan Army in Kashmir in assigning only one infantry company to Poonch, with strict orders that this puny company would not be employed in action but would passively sit in the rear of the irregular troops besieging Poonch. Brigadier Sadiq Khan Satti, a direct participant of Kashmir War, who this scribe interviewed with a very large number of times between 1981 and 1995, stated that Gracey exercised control over Kashmir operations through Colonel, later Brigadier Sher Khan Military Cross, and passed orders about how operations would be conducted indirectly through Sher Khan. Thus, it was a fiction that Pakistani officers were keeping Gracey or Messervi in the dark. Absolute nonsense. This was an exceptional situation since a lone company of 4x13 FF rifles was already in Kashmir on 1st February 1948, refers the Warden of the Marches, A History of the Piffers by Lieutenant General Atikur Rahman, published in 1980. While Pakistan Army officially entered Kashmir only in the first week of May 1948. Gracey's instructions to Pakistan Army battalions deployed in South Kashmir was pathetic to the lowest possible levels of mediocrity. These battalions were ordered to avoid direct contact with the Indian Army. To compound this supreme state of passiveness, Gracey deployed these battalions in such a way that they were not opposing the main axis of Indian advance to relieve Poonch, as already depicted on the map. The scene was thus set for complete disaster and enabled the Indians to relieve Poonch on 20th November 1948. Gracey's northern area's failures, we will discuss these in the next podcast.